This is why you don't do an episode about me! That's my best mayor impression. Anyway, this is Impeach, Fuzz, and as you can probably tell from the title, this episode involves the return of Fuzzy Lumpkins, which, yay, more Jim Cummings! But anyway, so the mayor is campaigning for mayor. Ironically, elections are starting up around the time I'm recording this. But anyway, so the mayor is campaigning for election, trying to rally up votes. And I guess he over-campaigns. Like, people are just like, the mayor, another day. Can't there be someone new? And Fuzzy Lumpkins just gets sick and tired of hearing the campaign. He tells him to shut up. And the public falls in love with him so much that they just vote for Fuzzy, and Fuzzy just Lumpkins wins by doing nothing. And of course, Fuzzy Lumpkins is not a good mayor. In fact, he's just probably like the last person you'd want as mayor. So he starts, of course, just completely redoes the office. It's like a pigsty. He has Miss Bellum dressed up as a country girl, which was really great. And he's having the Powerpuff Girls aren't fighting crime anymore. Instead, they're just doing work for him, which leads to some amusing stuff. Like, there's one scene where they have to chase around a pig, and there's like one bit where they have to play a band. Almost wish there was more of that. Like, we had a bit more of them chasing the pig, a bit more of them blowing into the thing. Because then the episode sort of, loses my interest. We go in, of course, the mayor has to get back into office, so he finds out Fuzzy's wearing his hat, and he challenges Fuzzy to a fight, and they do the cliche where the mayor's pinned down, and like at the last second he gets his second wind and starts beating the living daylights out of Fuzzy. And I'm really torn on it, because on one end it was an amusing episode, but on the other end it is kind of everything I kind of feared a mayor episode would be, which is not that interesting. Because I've always talked about in the past that the mayor is funny and he works in small doses, but he doesn't work when you do an entire episode around him because he's not an interesting character and he doesn't lend himself to that. And this episode kind of pretty much didn't do anything to dispel that fear. It pretty much just fell apart in the ways I'd expect. It wasn't a bad episode. Again, as I mentioned, it was funny. There was some amusing stuff. Like, I did like all the stuff I mentioned earlier, along with just the fact that Fuzzy was able to win by doing nothing, which I think kind of speaks to politics and how sometimes, like, it's not about who's the best candidate, it's about who the public perceives as the best candidate, and that the mayor just doing everything right may not be what the public wants. But the biggest fault is that it was a mayor episode, and that, again, he's not an interesting character. So, like, whenever and there were large chunks of this episode that were just the mayor, and again, he's funny for a line or two, but he's not interesting as an entire episode. So, like, anytime the episode just became about him, I was like, alright. Again, it wasn't bad. I was still amused. There's not many bad episodes of Powerpuff Girls yet, although we'll have to see them when I get into the episodes that were not made by Craig McCracken because he was busy with Foster's, although those are probably a long ways off. But yeah, I just didn't care. That's not to say that he wasn't amusing. Like, Tom Kenny does do a really good job voicing the mayor, especially whenever the mayor has to get really grumpy and angry. It's just crazy over the top. Whoa, don't you touch my hat! Yes, I should probably just stop. But anyway, point is, like, whenever he does that, it's fun, and Tom Kenny just really nails that voice. Do I really need to say Tom Kenny is a good voice actor? The guy who's voiced SpongeBob the Ice King and all these other characters, but yeah, it was just trying to picture Tom Kenny doing that in the booth, doing those parts, was just amusing. But there was just these really amusing bits in the episode that we just sort of don't get enough of, from like the girls chasing around the pig and doing chores to the professor entering the ring, which I thought was really funny. That was like one gag I just wish went on a bit longer. It's like, because like he's picking people, it's like, oh, he's gonna pick the girls and it's just gonna be a boring, straightforward fight. And they pick Express. I'm like, yeah, this is good. This is like the greatest fight ever. The mayor and professor versus Fuzzy Lumpkins. And But then the professor just gets wanked. I mean, it's still funny just to see how easily the professor gets beaten, but I just wish they had done a bit more with that concept. I think that could have been a really funny and amusing fight, because it's like the last two characters you'd expect to see in a fight scene fighting would... I just felt like there was a lot of possibilities there, and they just really didn't. I mean, it was... So to sum up, again, this wasn't a bad episode. I was amused and entertained by it, but again, I just... Mayer's not exactly the best character on the show, not exactly the one that works the best to do an entire episode around. I mean, I think some of the villains, like Fuzzy or Mojo, I think those characters, like, there are certain characters I think can hold an episode on their own. The Mayor is not one of them. He's much better as a side character, and I really hope we don't get a Misspell Him episode, because actually, no, I think maybe that'll be interesting, because we haven't really seen, but the Mayor just doesn't work. He's a comic relief character. Again, I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I mean, that's essentially what this episode boils down to in regards to its fault. It's that it's a Mayor episode, which, not bad. I mean, it could have been a lot worse, but I mean, especially considering these episodes are only 11 minutes, 10 or 11 minutes long. So you don't have that much time to fill, whereas like on The Simpsons, if this fell apart, it would be like 20 minutes of it. Like if you just decided to do an entire episode about Chief Wiggum for 20 minutes, like, actually, that might work. But you see my point. Like, that's the one benefit of Powerpuff Girls, is that they only have 11 minutes, so it's going to be really hard for me to fault the episodes for going on way too long. So, yeah, I've pretty much run out of stuff to say. Again, amusing episode, enjoyed it, just wasn't the show at its best. But if you disagree and thought this episode was completely hilarious and loved the Mayor-centric aspect, please comment below defending it, explaining it. I'm interested to hear, if there are fans of this episode, why they love it so much. And that's all I have to say. So this is JStar360, and I'll see you guys in the next Powerpuff Girls vlog. Until next time, take care.